Hello there, I'm Cody the Coin Raptor, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about how incredibly strong the fear, uncertainty, and doubt has been surrounding Bitcoin with the release and the approval of the new Bitcoin spot ETFs. All the critics have been lining up to take shots at Bitcoin, and I just want to go ahead and I want to bring this to your guys' attention, and I want to talk about the specific criticisms that are leveled at Bitcoin, as well as if this is the end of Bitcoin as we know it, or the death knell has been predicted at least 100 times by now by news outlets and traditional financial centers. And if you guys are interested in this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and also go ahead and follow me on Twitter or X as well. Greatly appreciate that. I'm almost at 300 subs, and that would be absolutely amazing if we could get to 300 subs before the end of the month. First thing I want to talk about is what's been going on with Vanguard. So Vanguard, the financial services company, has essentially decided not to carry any of the ETFs, the Bitcoin spot ETFs. Okay, so Vanguard has been very strong in pointing out that they refuse to. It doesn't seem like they're going to change their minds anytime soon. Now, this is in contrast to other financial services companies like Fidelity offering Bitcoin spot ETFs, and in fact, also getting into Bitcoin mining as well. So Vanguard has come out here and they've basically said they're not interested in carrying these ETFs. I think that they're personally an outlier. I don't really think that they care, frankly, that they're going to lose money on some of their customers moving to other platforms. Now, they're also certain people on crypto Twitter are calling for boycotts for Vanguard right now. And we'll see if that actually gets them to change their mind. At the end of the day, the only thing that gets any of these companies to change their minds is if they wind up losing money. So we'll see. That may actually have some impact on their attitude towards Bitcoin. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the ridiculous video that CNBC put out lately entitled "How Bitcoin Lost by Winning." Okay, definitely recommend you guys check this video out because it is just so funny the way CNBC decides to go and release some of these videos and talk about some of the finer points there about Bitcoin adoption, and specifically talk about what the SEC chair Gary Gensler said about Bitcoin, which should immediately be a red flag because he did not even want a Bitcoin spot ETF approved. They had to be forced into it by that loss against Grayscale. And really what it comes down to right now is a concerted disinformation campaign that's being pushed by these media outlets in order to get people to stay away from Bitcoin. Though some would also argue that they're trying to drive the price down so that their buddies can buy in at a much lower price. That's definitely possible, but we're just seeing these kind of articles and videos really start to accelerate and populate now that Bitcoin spot ETF approval is here. And speaking of which, we also have our favorite person, Jamie Dimon, the head of JP Morgan Chase, the bank, coming out and saying, "I'm tired of talking about Bitcoin," and yet he continues to talk about Bitcoin. He continues to insult it. He continues to call it a pet rock and say that its only use is only for the illicit activities and money laundering, even though the dollar is the #1 source of money laundering and illicit activities. And Bitcoin has a public blockchain, which makes it actually easier to find people who are trying to do illicit activities on the blockchain. He frankly does not care. People keep asking him about Bitcoin, and his attitudes towards Bitcoin have not changed, even though JP Morgan respects blockchain and they like the technology and they have investments in blockchain. It doesn't really matter because Jamie Dimon it does not like Bitcoin, and the major banks do not like Bitcoin currently. They're afraid of its power. They're afraid of an alternative financial system developing in which they are losing significant control over that financial system. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Jamie Dimon continues thinking this way until his final days, frankly. And we'll see if in the future these attitudes will change, but I do think that it's going to wind up having to be a change of CEOs in these banks and new people getting in with fresh ideas. Now, Jamie Dimon is probably going to continue to talk about Bitcoin because it makes the headlines and people like to talk about how important his opinions are as one of the largest financial institutions on the planet. Okay. But that being said, he is being incredibly short-sighted about Bitcoin. But frankly, he doesn't care and he's well stuck into his own opinions. So we've seen a pretty concerted disinformation campaign hit Bitcoin. And we've seen the Bitcoin price drop pretty dramatically from coming all the way up to about past 48,000 all the way down to where it is currently at about 41,600. Now, again, a lot of people have been kind of asking themselves, well, what's been going on with the Bitcoin price? I made a whole video talking about one of the reasons why we've seen the Bitcoin price falter is because we've had a significant amount of selling off of miners as well as people taking profits, and that has depreciated the price all the way down to, we've seen it go down to about 40,400. Now, what's important to point out about this right now is that we've seen the RSI on the daily hit 43, which is a level that we haven't seen since October of 2023. So Bitcoin right now, the sentiment is incredibly depressed. The buyers have been in full retreat and the sellers have taken over. And this is an area in which I would actually be very interested in buying Bitcoin if it continues its fall into this wonderful area that I've pointed out here, this buying area, again, 40K to about 37.5. This is an area in which I'd be very interested in buying Bitcoin. The simple fact is that the sentiment has reversed. You've seen people taking profits. You've seen a lot of FUD about the Bitcoin space. And that's precisely when I like to buy, when things have shifted. And now you can see that instead of us being in extreme greed for Bitcoin, now we're actually neutral. I would love if we could actually get down to the fear section. That would be really nice. That's an area in which I'd be interested in buying if we do eventually reach the point of fear for Bitcoin. But so far, we've seen buyers step in here, this support band here that goes all the way from about 41,600 to about 40,600, so about $1,000 support band. We've seen that hold so far. Now, if it does not hold, we could definitely be seeing Bitcoin go all the way down to 37,600, and I am ready to buy out of my bags in that area. So what happened with Bitcoin on the 19th of January, a couple days ago, is we saw a large number of liquidations for the longs, so about $18 million with the liquidations in about an hour. And we've seen a concerted number of long liquidations in these very negative price action moves downwards. Longs have gotten liquidated, however, they still remained dominant in the market. If we go ahead and take a look at our liquidation heat map, what you can see here is that the last move all the way down here to about 40,400 took out some pretty significant long liquidity, $130 million, to about $205 million is a lot of those liquidation levels. And now our next biggest liquidation level is about 40,100. So if Bitcoin does come anywhere near 40K, those longs are going to get taken out, and then we're going to wind up seeing the price move even lower into my buy zone, which I do think is probably going to happen. I do think we're going to wind up seeing a move under 40K, if just briefly. Now, I also want to go ahead and point out what's going on here with the short-term and long-term supply. Now, the long-term supply, we take out the short-term supply here for Bitcoin, we can see that it actually peaked at about 85%, so long-term holders. So this is people who have held Bitcoin for greater than 139 days. And we've actually started to see it come down a little bit. So we're starting to see some profit taking here. It's gone down to 84% as opposed to a high of 85%, though I don't know if 85% is going to be the absolute peak. Somehow I doubt it, but I'll be watching this very closely to see if the long-term holders actually wind up selling significant share of their Bitcoin. So far, we have not seen that. Now, I also want to go ahead and talk about Bitcoin seasonality as well. So the returns for January traditionally have been kind of mixed with Bitcoin. Mostly it's been kind of negative, though you can kind of discount this 2017 year in which the January basically that had no change in the price action. But usually January is a time of year in which we normally see upwards to 25, 33% drawdown in the Bitcoin price. And then January is usually preceded by a very strong February. So you've seen, even in some of the bad years, that February has actually been fairly strong. And I do expect that February is still going to be a strong year for Bitcoin this year. And in fact, if you go down here, and this is on CoinGlass, if you could go ahead and take a look at the average gain for February is 13% in the market compared to a 3% average in January. Now, it also follows that February is the start of a extremely strong period for Bitcoin, some of the strongest times for Bitcoin. February, March, and April do tend to be incredibly nice months for Bitcoin. And then once you get into the summertime, it's more sideways. We see here June about 0.25% or so, and July about only 8%. So I do expect that this time will not be different. We will see a strong January. We'll see a mild January followed by a strong February, March, and April, and hopefully that will give us a nice boost to the price and quiet some of the haters for Bitcoin out there. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is what's going on in the options market for Bitcoin. We can see here that you have significant number of puts and call options on the 26th of January, including $2.5 billion worth of call options and about $1.3 billion worth of puts. This is a really tiny number of puts, honestly. I expected this to be a little bit higher, but just kind of goes to show you the euphoria currently over the last couple of weeks that we've seen for Bitcoin. And so what this means is by the 26th, so that's 5 days from now, by the end of the week, essentially, we're going to wind up seeing where the Bitcoin price winds up. However, most of the call options are actually pointing towards a $50,000 price target by the end of the week. Now, I think that's probably unlikely, but it is interesting to see what'll happen if we don't get anywhere close to that. We stay at 41, 42,000 or so, and a lot of these guys have to actually wind up taking a significant loss on those call options. So just keep that in mind. We're going to be seeing significant volatility throughout this week as we have a number of big events planned for this week, including you have the Tesla earnings on Wednesday, which could always impact the Bitcoin price. Tesla, which holds Bitcoin as part of their balance sheet, they could be selling it, or they could decide to actually add more to it, which we've seen them sell in the past. That can always wind up moving the price. That's something to watch out for. Tesla is going to be reporting Wednesday after the close. And then if we go ahead and take a look at our economic calendar, we can see here that we have Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, not a whole lot going on there. Thursday, we have Q4 GDP, jobless claims as well, new home sales. That's really important for the housing sector. And then Friday, we have the PCE, personal consumption expenditures. Again, this is the Fed's preferred index for inflation. So a lot of people have been talking about the possibility of there being rate cuts in March, but we'll have to see. And I'll be talking about that more as we get closer and closer to the next Fed meeting. But we'll have to see whether or not these PCE numbers come in lower than expected, and hopefully the Fed will wind up cutting in a little bit later in the year. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about the large price decline we've seen in Bitcoin. And if you think that people like Jamie Dimon will ever truly come to respect Bitcoin, or he will continue to just call it a pet rock, leave a comment below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.